Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. We are still in the midst of our Monster Hunter Primal Crisis crossover event, but since today is February 1st at the time I'm recording this, we also got this month in Dragalia Lost. That is our monthly look at what's coming up for the rest of the month. It's a new initiative that started last year when the game switched over to director Okada. I've been pretty pleased to see all the announcements that come out with that every month so far, so I'm hopeful that we're going to get some good announcements today. I've already done my free summons. I have been really fortunate as far as my free summons go. I posted my very first day of free summons in my last video, and I actually got Fatalis on that. Second day, I got another 5-star, and I will go ahead and pop up my summoning results on the screen now. I was not recording, I was actually on my phone, and thinking I was probably not going to get anything after getting lucky with Fatalis. And surprise, surprise, I actually got Hunter Vanessa, so probably my two most coveted units, or coveted dragon and adventurer on the banner. I'm still very interested in Hunter Berserker, but we're going to see if I manage to pick him up off the free tenfolds. If not, I may dip into my Wormite to try get him. It all depends on what's going to be on part 2 of that showcase. And it looks like this month in Dragalia Lost is going to talk a little bit about that, so let's go ahead and head over there now. I hope that you've had good luck with your summons so far. I am just doing them right at reset. It's just hard to resist that temptation, but I have not spent any extra Wormite or extra tenfolds. I am holding out to get all the free summons first before I actually dip into my resources. Of course, with this being the first of the month, we also get our Astral Raid Treasure Trade reset, our Void Battle Treasure Trade reset, and if you are a spending player, it'll also reset the monthly shop packs. Right now, there are some limited time packs for Monster Hunter that may be a little more lucrative than some of the monthly shop packs, but in any case, they are available if there's something you wish to invest in. Okay, this month in Dragalia Lost. Hello, Yuji Okada here, director of Dragalia Lost. Are you enjoying the Monster Hunter event? From the movements of the adventurers and monsters to the introduction of large barrel bombs, I believe this event offers lots of gameplay that is different from other events we've held up until now. We also added a few major features in the January update. In addition to the plans for this month, I'd also like to discuss the intention behind these updates. Really cool, we're going to get some behind the scenes, understand the motivations of why changes were introduced. I'm expecting Revive will be discussed because that was a really big feature that was implemented this month. Let's read about the Monster Hunter event first, though. Regarding the Monster Hunter event, I was extremely happy to be able to put together a Monster Hunter event since it's a series that I thoroughly enjoy. I also think it was a bit surprising that Fatalis, who is a bit of a special monster even within the series, showed up as the raid boss. The first half of the event is on now, but the second half will start in the near future. We'll be adding one more adventurer, and their weapon type will be something other than sword or lance. We'll share more information about the second half of the event with you via notifications, so please wait just a little longer. I think there's almost no doubt what adventure is going to be added, and I'm of course referring to Cerise. We saw her on the title screen when I logged in today. We saw her in that artwork, that same artwork, when the teaser trailer for this event was played. We got a free water bow, and it's highly likely, given the armor she's wearing, that she would be water element. And it looks like in that artwork she's wielding a bow, so all of the signs point to Cerise, and there's even some high quality artwork of her in her pose where she's shooting an arrow, not necessarily with the entire character portrait, which includes that stand that characters are on, but we at least got some story artwork type of art of her, I believe. So I think it's almost impossible that this one extra adventure is not Cerise alt, Hunter Cerise, I guess you could say. But there's one other possibility, and it's a really minor possibility, but we did get a free flame wand as part of the event. Now, I think that that's probably going to mean an old Flame Wand character will be given a raid up on that showcase and share, be another featured unit on that showcase, just like Hunter Cerise. Similar to how on this first time around we got Heinwald and Cupid, I think that we will likely get Student Maribel. I think she's still the only 5-star, natural 5-star wand in Flame, so I'm expecting that we will see her. There's Mega Man, of course, but he is not a summonable unit, so I don't think that he'll randomly show up. So I think it's probably going to be Student Maribel and Hunter Cerise on that showcase, and Hunter Cerise being the new unit. It's pretty much preordained based on the teaser trailer, all of these little clues, but we'll see. Maybe we could be surprised. I would be very happy if it is Hunter Cerise, so I'm not complaining. If I don't get her, maybe I'll be a little salty, but I'm going to try to save as many resources as I can. It's honestly, it should be easier to pull her than to pull Gala Cerise. Even when Gala Cerise first appeared, it's just generally easier to pull characters off normal showcases compared to Gala. So we shall see. But regarding the note they left on Fatalis, I do remember quite a few people, upon first watching the teaser trailer before they had confirmed who that was, when they saw Fatalis in the teaser trailer, they got pretty excited and hyped. So I guess Fatalis has a significance that is beyond my understanding of the Monster Hunter universe, but I'm glad that he's here. There's rumors of a Dread King showing up, so take that for what you will, but part 2 of the event remains to be seen. There's definitely more story content on the way. I would assume more boss fights. I finished the Advanced Rathalos trial now. I finished the Nightmare or Ultra difficulty of the Fatalis raid. Both of those were pretty fun, but I will say with the 6-star weapons, the Tier 2 High Dragon weapons, and even the Chimera weapons, a little on the easier side, but I'll take it. I'm still happy to have this accessible to as many players as it's open to, and frankly, the rewards, as common as the materials may be, the quantity and diversity of rewards that you get from this is really satisfying. It makes it well worth it to play the raid repeatedly if you need any of those types of materials, and it's fantastic if you're a newer player and want to shore up on all the types of resources you'll need to power up your various characters. Okay, I guess that's enough about the Monster Hunter event, so let's keep going. Regarding events this month, the Valentine's Confections event, which was held last year as well, will be returning in mid-February with a new story and new things to do. You'll be able to collect items called Valentine's gifts during the event and give them to certain adventurers to see a special story featuring that character. There will be 30 adventurers you can give gifts to. That is sweet. I really hope Eleanor is included in that. I hope Pietra's in there. Personally, I also hope Mikoto. Mikoto has become a fast favorite of mine, and also the Stirring Shadows crew, the team of Heinwald and Curran, and maybe even Lathana, for a different type of story, of course, not necessarily like a romantic Valentine's Day story. But I just think those are some of my favorite characters, and it would be fun to get to interact with them. We'll see. It might be more concentrated around the story characters and maybe like natural 5 stars. Perhaps they'll do it that way. But I'm pretty hyped about this. I would assume, although it's not explicitly mentioned here, that there will be a related banner. The thing is, the Monster Hunter event lasts past Valentine's Day, so perhaps they're going to do overlapping banners, or maybe the Cerise alt that we're getting is kind of like a Valentine's Day character, and we'll just get a rerun of the old Valentine's event. I know that the armor she's wearing in the artwork is kind of red, pink, and white, and I think that in Monster Hunter that armor has some type of association with weddings as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but perhaps that will be like our Valentine's Day alt. If we have a full, another proper seasonal banner right after Monster Hunter, man, our Wormite, I hope that we can take it and get through all the summoning, but it's always nice to get an alt of your favorite character, so hopefully, if you're unsure and you're not, crazy about any of the Monster Hunter characters, try save and maybe we'll get a tease of who's actually going to be featured for Valentine's Day before the end of the Monster Hunter event so that you could decide which one you want to summon on. But 30 adventurers you can give gifts to. I hope that we can actually view all the stories, like there's enough gifts if you grind it out, because I think I would actually like to do that. Okay, so that's Valentine's Confections. A little disappointing, a smidge. I mean, not anything negative, but I will say these seasonal events have gotten kind of repetitive. We got the same event for Halloween, the same event for Dragon Yule, aka Christmas. So now this is the third time where we've gotten just a rerun for a seasonal event. I guess New Year's was completely new, so that was pretty nice. We skipped over Lunar New Year this time. We just got the login bonus. So I wonder if they're going to just continue this tradition and maybe at the midway point, the half anniversary, or the 1.5 anniversary rather, we start to see a lot more new events, and including new seasonal events. I know that by that point, we're expected to get the rerun an event anytime type of feature. So perhaps that's the point where, yes, they really want to invest heavily into new events because the old events are going to be accessible more often. I'm not unhappy though. Valentine's Confections story events have fantastic rewards. Really good event if you're a new player. It's very easy to get the rewards. Basically, for any quest that you're doing in the game, you're going to get some Valentine's material that you can trade into a treasure trade for good rewards and to view stories. So, pretty cool event. I'm glad to see it back. There's a 3-star worm print with some flowers on it from this event, which I'm missing from my collection. So I'm going to be sure to pick that up this time. And I might even pick up a second or third or fourth copy of the Chocolatiers worm print. That is a really good worm print, has a lot of utility. It gives you a skill prep of 100% on one character, and in a lot of endgame content, that is almost irreplaceable. There's ways that you can sort of replicate it, but for characters like Gala Elisan, Emma, Gala Yuden, there's lots of characters, a surprisingly large amount, who want to be running the Chocolatiers in some of the endgame High Dragon trials. So it's well worth picking up. And for things like auto battle, repeated auto battle, honestly, some content, if you just put Chocolatiers on everybody or some form of skill prep on everybody, they can just completely nuke the enemy with skills right off the bat. And you can speed up your repeated auto battle very quickly. So I think I'm probably going to pick some up, but I'm just not sure how many. Maybe just a full set, just to be safe, but I won't unbind them. Anyway, Valentine's Confections, moving on. After mid-February, we'll be adding a Chimera enemy of a new element to Void battles. Just like the Volcanic Chimera we added last year, you'll be able to obtain powerful weapons using the materials you get by clearing the quest. So, do they say what element it is? That's my big question. Chimera, an enemy of a new element. They don't say what element it is. My suspicion is that this would be a Shadow Chimera. The reason I say that is we got the Volcanic Chimera when we got Flame Mana Spirals. So the Chimera shared an element with the characters who got the Mana Spiral. We don't really know if we're going to get any type of new spirals in February. It's not mentioned from what I can see so far in this month in Dragalia Lost, but we were previously told they're going to add more shadow element spirals for 3 and 4-star characters. So if we're still in shadow season, so to speak, I think that this is likely to be a shadow chimera, maybe an Umbran chimera, they'll give it a cool name, and we'll be able to craft shadow chimera tech weapons. So it's probably a good time to start investing into your shadow characters. I'm not going to mana spiral anyone. I have not mana spiraled anyone. I've just been holding on to enough raw materials to craft a tier 2 high dragon weapon for the shadow element, and I'm going to wait and see if that ends up being the element that the new Agito boss is. Then I'll see what type of unit ends up being popular and probably build that unit or build a unit I like that is also popular. Somebody I can actually use, clear in pubs, but still somebody I like. So right now I'm kind of torn. I'm like, do I build Heinwald? Do I build Patya? And it's just a tough decision all around. But at least if we do get the Shadow Chimera or whatever it's called, I'll be able to outfit some of those other Shadow characters who I didn't get to build a tier 2 dragon weapon for with the Chimera Tech weapons for Shadow, which are likely to still be very, very powerful judging how good the flame weapons were. Alright, so we're going to get a new Volcanic Chimera. We're also going to get Chapter 12 of the main campaign. In this chapter, you'll get a look at one of the siblings' past, and you'll be able to see a surprising side of them, which will change the relationship between the siblings a little. There will also be a new boss you can only fight in Chapter 12. I love what I'm reading here. The story, to me, being punctuated by good boss fights is very important. If you've watched any of my previous story videos, I usually have mixed feelings or positive feelings about the story, but then I come down on the boss because I'm like, why are we fighting a random manticore? Why are we fighting a sentinel right now? Couldn't we fight like a cool boss? And I think that Chapter 6, where you fight against Valix, just set up the expectation, and every prior chapter where you're fighting the Great Worms set up the expectation that that would be a regular thing. And then for a while, I would say until Chapter 10, we really didn't get that cool of a boss fight. In Chapter 10, we got the Chthonius fight and the Cube fight, which were awesome. And in Chapter 11, we got another Cube fight. Okay, not quite as extreme and cool the second time around. Different element, I guess. But we got the Lakshi fight, which I thought was really, really sweet. So if they continue to do these cool boss fights with the story chapters, even though they're sort of one and done, I think that that's really satisfying. It feels like a culmination, you know? I just don't like fighting the reskinned rando boss enemies that we just clobber on in all these other modes. So I'm excited about who that boss could be. We got the interlude. I hadn't made a video about the interlude since it's just really like 3 story segments, but we learn about Ferris and Ferris's condition, which I think is called Wormscale. I mean, I want to call it Grayscale from Game of Thrones, I guess. It just reminds me of whatever that disease was in Game of Thrones. But in any case, we'll see. I mean, it could be Ferris. Maybe we'll learn about Ferris's past. It could also be Shell, because Shell made an appearance last chapter, and we saw Cat Sith, her dragon. It could also be Leonidas, because I think in the teaser, Leonidas was explicitly mentioned, or Valkahim was mentioned, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's any of those characters. I don't think it's going to be Valix. I feel like Valix has not been in the action for a while, and Emil might just show up as, like, kind of the mid-boss, if you will, the just grunt enemy that we continue to squabble with, but I don't think he's the big bad or focus of the chapter by any means. We'll see, though. That's going to come out in February, not mid-February. Mid-February is going to be the Volcanic Chimera. That's just going to be sometime in February, so I could see that actually being pretty late in the month. Okay, next up, a new boss will be added to the Agito Uprising in late February. Whenever they say late February, I think we're talking like 26th to the 28th here. So I'm not too hopeful that that will be like the 20th or something like that. I think that they really do take it to the end of the month. But still, this is a pretty fast turnaround time to get a new Agito boss. We got Volk's Wrath back in December, at the end of December, so about 2 months, and we already have a new Agito boss. This is pretty exciting to me because it means that when I think ahead, you know, if we're getting one in February, perhaps we'll get one in April, then June, and then we might get one in August. And at that point, how many is that? Are we already done with all the elements? Would there be one left? I mean, we could be looking at the 2nd anniversary having all of these Agito bosses. And that is significantly faster than last time, because if you think about with the High Dragons, we sat on High Midgard-Stormer for quite a while. High Brunhilde came out in December or November, I want to say, of the first year of the game, the first few months of the game. And it wasn't until, like, I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember. Between March and May sometime that we got High Mercury. But it felt like a while. That's my point. It felt like a while, and then it felt like High Jupiter and High Zodiac were a little bit more tightly paced. But if we finish all the Agito trials by the next anniversary, or even a little bit after that, I would not be surprised, as dread as I am to say this, or as much as I'm afraid to say this, that we could get the Master Trials or some Time Attack or some shenanigans in that post-anniversary period where they're like trying to spice things up, make it harder. I don't really want to see any of that right now. Like, I'm happy with Expert Agito. Just let me grind it out. Weeklies feel stress-free for the most part in Agito. I can solo the standard difficulty, and the co-op on the standard difficulty is a little easier now with the revive mechanic. So I kind of just want to chill and take a long-term approach with Agito, but as these things always work, there are people out there who have completely maxed out all the 6-star weapons already. And they probably want something else to do, and so this next Agito trial is going to give them that. Right now, I've just maxed out one 6-star weapon, the dagger, and I'm about 4/5 of the way to a second weapon. Not sure what I'm going to craft. I'll probably just hold on to materials once again. The thing is, we have been told that we're going to get higher tiers of 6-star weapons. And if you have to max unbind a tier 1 6-star weapon just to get one copy of a tier 2 6-star weapon, that would mean that you need 5 max unbound copies of a tier 1 6-star weapon to get a max unbound tier 2 6-star weapon. And then that would just explode even further if there was actually a tier 3 eventually. So that's a lot of grinding. It takes a lot of grinding to even max out one of these 6-star weapons. I don't want to complain. It's a lot easier. It's a lot better compared to the High Dragon trials. That is for sure. But it is a lot of grinding. It's still a lot to play. So those 6-star tier 2, I hope they're far away. That's all I have to say about that. I'm not complaining, but I hope they're far away. Just give us time to kind of naturally accrue what we need. That's always the pace that I enjoy the most. So I'm not going to rush out to try to craft any weapons right now. I'm going to hold, see what element the Agito boss is. I'm predicting that it will be a light element boss, since the Chimera, I think, is going to be Shadow Element, and we've seen all these mana spirals for Shadow Element. So that's my prediction, but that could be totally wrong. And if it's another element, I'm not sitting as pretty on a pile of resources for any other element. So I might try focus on the other High Dragons for a while, just in case this boss comes out and it's an element where I really don't have a good weapon or good character for. But it's so hard to predict. I wish they would tell us. But I guess they'll probably tell us soon. Once we see that Chimera, I think that we'll kind of know. Okay, so regarding the recent updates, it looks like that's it for events this month. Really just a rerun, but a good rerun. New Void Battle, new story chapter, and then new Agito Uprising. So no new event, like a rotating event like we had with our New Year's event or Monster Hunter event, but honestly, Monster Hunter eats up such a long part of this month, and it's going to have new content added to it that I think that that's perfectly fine. And we've got lots of other stuff on the way in any case. Alright, so regarding recent updates. The update at the end of January added some major features, but the one I'd like to talk about is the Revive feature. Void Battles, Advanced Dragon Trials, and the Agito Uprising are high difficulty quests that don't allow much room for error. Finding ways to overcome that high degree of difficulty is the true charm of this game, but we believe that we set the barriers to entry too high and made the gameplay experience unenjoyable for the players. Thank you for the acknowledgement! This is what I wanted to hear. When I came into this post, I knew that there was some type of acknowledgement coming up. I knew they were going to talk about the revive mechanic. This makes me really happy to see, because now, for the first time, I feel like the concerns of the players are being acknowledged, and it's a one-to-one. Nothing was lost in translation here. When we got our pseudo-apology for the time attack situation, the apology was phrased in such a way that, to me, it didn't sound like the devs really understood why people were complaining, because the way the apology was written, it just said, kind of like, we are sorry that we gave you Master on top of Expert. That must have been a lot to do. When even the Expert by itself, with the pressure of time attack, already felt like a lot. So I feel like the point was a little bit missed in the apology last time. And even though I was grateful and glad that at least it was acknowledged, I feel like it wasn't clear to me that there was clarity on what the real issue was. Here, I think that they've exactly identified the issue. We've seen tons of people post about this over the past several months since these harder difficulty Advanced Dragon Trials opened up. on expert, on master. It's a particular problem in the trials where the meta is extremely, what should I even say, cemented? I mean, sticky. So in High Jupiter's trial, in High Zodiarc's trial, it's even more painful because you have to use very specific characters. Oftentimes, High Zodiarc's opened up a lot, but most people still feel comfortable with the strategy of breaking the boss to avoid cursed realms. It's not common that you'd see like healer comps or things like that. And they're hard fights to learn. It's very easy to get one-shot by random stuff, which just makes it hard to actually learn and immediately practice because you're just sitting on the sidelines when you get knocked out. And oftentimes your team is discouraged or you're discouraged. Somebody leaves the room and then the whole thing kind of falls apart. So the revive mechanic, for the issues that it has, yes, it's harder to reset the room. If you're with pre-mades and everybody wants to go for a deathless, it's going to be a little bit annoying. You probably want to give up, just remake the room. But in pubs, and that's pretty much been 95% of my High Dragon experience and Agito experience since this update, it has been a lot better. So it's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect, but let's continue reading. The revive feature will help alleviate this by allowing players to recover if they make a small mistake. Our hope is that this will make the higher difficulties a little more approachable. However, we didn't want to simply lower the difficulty, so we added benefits for clearing quests without using the revive feature. Perfect explanation. It's sound. I've been happy with the survival bonus. It was a bonus on top of our previous rewards that we were already getting, which I think is the right way to do it. When I first read it, I was confused. I thought it was, you only get those rewards if you survive, and that replaces your drop rewards that you normally get. Now that there's clarity around what it is, although yes, there are going to be people who quit or reset, frankly, I think most people I've seen have not really done that. A lot of people who died do just get back into the fight and try clear the fight anyway. So I'm not so hardcore of a grinder to really want to do that either myself. So thankfully, I feel like that's going to be an overall minor problem in the grand scheme of things. And I understand if you're somebody who does want to reset or give up, because we do have limited resources in this game. We do have limited wings to play co-op with, and Wearmite to refresh our stamina and wings with. So I do understand if you want to get the most out of everything, but as somebody who was more of like a mediocre player or, middling player, I was not like a super pro at these trials, I feel way better knowing that I am not costing my teammates anything. Their ability to clear is not as impeded if I make a mistake. I can get back into it. I'm not going to get as good a reward, but I didn't hurt them, and a lot of the moves in these fights, if you don't have everybody, or in the old days, because of the time limit, if you don't have everybody, you might not have the DPS, or you might not be able to survive certain combos or moves. So frankly, I just feel a lot better as, I don't want to say a low effort player, but as much as I love this game and play it, like, I'm not a super pro at this game by any means. So I like the revive mechanic. I'm really happy with how it's worked out. Okay, for the Agito Uprising, which was just recently released, the revive feature still only applies to standard, but we plan to make adjustments in the future with the addition of new content. Awesome. New content comes out, put the revive mechanic onto the old content, so that if you want to be part of that more hardcore group, you are on the front lines of the new content, you are chasing down those first clears and weekly bonuses. That's great. Good for you. You're going to be able to do that in an environment that you like. And for the rest of us, we will eventually have a good shot at it because it will become easier to learn, it'll become easier to master, and more forgiving of mistakes. I can tell you right now, for expert Agito, some of the things that are really messing people up, I think the big tornado, the snapping squalls that Volk does in Phase 2, that messes a lot of people up, especially if you have several melee. You don't necessarily know if you're going to get the snapping squall. People don't run out in time, or if they do, they don't know how to move along the wall to avoid that. a revive would really help with that part, because a lot of people just give up, reasonably so, if you fail there. Another thing that I think it would help with is honestly the first part of the fight, because that is where people tend to make a lot of mistakes. The shuriken phase, there's just a lot of AoEs on the screen at the same time. You're potentially rolling into others by accident, stunning or sleeping them. Maybe you're overlapping on your chasers. It requires a lot of coordination, and in a lot of groups, you kind of just work your way into it, or you play conservatively. If you've played the fight a while and are really a hardcore grinder or know the fight well, then you don't need to rush your DPS. But that particular phase, and I think the snapping squalls, to me, are some of the parts that could benefit a lot from a revive. But I'm really happy with the explanation of the tweaks. I would love to continue seeing things like that. I liked when they explained the mana spiral changes for Shadow, even though the spirals themselves weren't the most exciting to me. Love the characters, but the changes, they apparently are really good. The damage is really good. Everything's good about them. Just the flavor, it could use a little bit of a bump up. Things like the poison killer on Curran, I still don't think it's really Curran-esque, but in any case, regarding the future of Dragalia Lost, looks like we are wrapping up here, so I know the video is already past the 30-minute mark, wow. But let's go ahead and read through this. Regarding the future of Dragalia Lost, as I discussed above in the section about the revive feature, we plan to continue making improvements that will make the game easier for players who started the game with the current event, and for those who stopped playing for a while but have now started again. Awesome. Good. Yes, I think that getting fresh blood into the game is key to this game's longevity and its success, because as a more enfranchised player, I will tell you that you do reach a point where you want to keep playing, but spending money doesn't have a lot of rewards or benefits. So I think in terms of the financial future of the game, it is imperative that new people continue to get into the game. And the game has been doing really well. Nintendo passed $1 billion in their mobile revenue, and Dragalia Lost was like the third best in terms of its revenue, and it hasn't even had a global release. And it's a brand new IP, so it's been doing well, but the question is how to maintain that. You need people to continue coming in, and I love events like this because it's really good for new players. In the next update, we will add a feature that lets players check strategy information for Dragon Trials and Advanced Dragon Trials in-game, and a feature that lets players select whether they wish to receive the weekly bonus. That is such a requested feature. I cannot tell you. This is at this point, pretty much solved all of my issues with the High Dragon Trials, because the weekly bonus, it's always the first 3 times you play the fight. The thing is, the Master Trials have a schedule where not everything is available on day 1. So oftentimes you're saving your resources, saving those weekly bonuses so that you get them applied toward the quest you want. And while you're in that saving mode or mentality, you feel like, well, I can't help somebody else clear an easier trial. I can't do other content. I need to save, because the first time I do this fight or this set of fights, I'm going to be expending that treasure chest. So being able to select when to use it, that's awesome. It means that at the beginning of a week in particular, people are going to be more available to help others, and with the mentor bonus that is live, hopefully that means people can help mentor others as well earlier in the week. So what else? Oh, the strategy information in the game? That's probably cool too. Strategy info for Dragon Trials, I don't really know about that, but Advanced Dragon Trials, yes, it's absolutely necessary, I think. Reading a strategy guide in-game would be pretty cool, or maybe even like a comic. There used to be an adventurer, I guess like adventurer guide, something like that. There was a Dragalia comic, not just Dragalia Life, but another one about adventure tips. So maybe they could actually continue that series and do it that way. I think that would be a fun way to do it. But honestly, so many of the mechanics are so elaborate, which I appreciate on one hand, but it is like this game could be a 3DS game or console game with the sophistication of these mechanics, and you're trying to do it on your phone, that people have created these resources where it's like a move list, certain timings, a lot of people making guide videos. this is not something that you would necessarily see, especially in an action-oriented game, with every mobile title. So I think that there is a need to address this within the game. There are a lot of other hidden mechanics of Dragalia Lost that are completely invisible to most players, that you only see in places like Discord or on the wiki for the game, but at least understanding and communicating how the mechanics work should be helpful. Okay, next up, though I can't get into the specifics yet, will also work to make it so that a wider variety of adventurers can challenge high difficulty quests. In order to make it easier to upgrade adventurers, we plan to flesh out the game's solo play elements. Yes, I'm there for solo play. Additionally, we'll improve the co-op room condition settings to make it easier to participate in co-op. Sounds good, and this is just a suggestion, but one of the most common pitfalls I see with newer players, you hold on to those gather wings. Maybe it's that you don't know how to access co-op. Maybe you're under the impression that you can just play out this game purely as a solo game. But if you have any interest in the late game content, I will tell you right now, you're going to have to get comfortable with co-op eventually. It is a lot easier for the late game fights, and in order to grind up the resources you need to enter the late game, you pretty much have to do co-op. So if you're somebody who's sitting on 99 wings, I hope this update about making it easier to get in co-op is like the game prompts you and tells you like, hey, you have a lot of gather wings. We'd recommend you do co-op in this quest to use some of your wings. Would you like to do that? And maybe even something where you could like multi-spin wings in the way that you can kind of multi-spin stamina via skip tickets. That would be pretty cool if you could spend all your wings at once and just get all the resources for whatever you're doing. I think, especially if you're somebody who goes to school or works, like, and you come back, you have 8 to 10 wings, 11 wings, you feel like, okay, how do I get rid of these? What is the most efficient way to get rid of these that's not a total waste of my wings that I've saved up over this many hours? So hopefully it is something that makes it a little easier to burn through those. But even if it's just things like the settings when you're building a room or creating a room, that would be fine. You know, little changes like that are always appreciated, and the solo play I'm very curious about. These are the sort of things we are keeping in mind as we develop features or future updates. We are also aware that Dragalia lost large data size, which is due to the amount of 3D models, 2D illustrations, and voice data is another concern for players. Though it will take some time, this is something we plan to adjust little by little in the long term. Also appreciate that. I have actually run out of space on my phone, so whenever a new update comes out, I have to like delete old stuff. Probably need to clean out my phone in general, but still, on a lot of the phones that you're getting from, say, your service provider or your phone carrier in the US, you're often getting like 32 gigs or maybe 64 or even less, depending on the phone that you have. So not a lot of space, and Dragalia takes up a pretty big chunk of it. So I'm hopeful that they'll slowly address this over time, but obviously, you know, one way to address it would be put it on the Switch. Maybe that's a way to address it. Make it a bigger size, you know, get an SD card. Anyway, in conclusion, I hope you continue to enjoy playing the Monster Hunter event this month. We're giving the following items to players. I hope they're helpful in the early stages of upgrading your adventurers. 50,000 Eldwater, 2 Champions Testaments, 2 Knights Testaments, 50 gold whetstones, and 300 gold crystals. All of those things are helpful. For me, the Champion's Testament and the Eldwater are the juiciest. The rest of those are pretty nice gold crystals if you're somebody who's into mana spirals. I've still only spiraled Azalith, but if you are into mana spirals and want to spiral a lot of characters, you're going to need a lot of crystals to get your characters to level 100. Okay, and this month in Dragalia Lost is posted or planned for March 1st. That is it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We basically just spent 40 minutes going through a very short news post, but as always with This Month in Dragalia Lost, there is a lot to discuss about the context, about the setting, the scenery of what's going on in the game. So I hope that you have enjoyed this as a sort of check-in with what's going on, my feelings about Dragalia Lost. Let me know how you are feeling about Dragalia Lost, Monster Hunter, and all the rest in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.